Just we need to prove his bias.
Yeah, you need to.
Through.
A judge might say, yes, I'm happy to, I'm under oath that I'm here in, you know, good faith without prejudice, and then say, I order a psych eval. And you say, well, I've acted in good faith and fair-mindedness, and I've given no indication that I'm of unsound mind. You know, may I please ask what basis you seek this order now, Your Honour? I don't care what you say. I'm going to order that. Well, that's an example of bias, isn't it? Yeah, an abusive process.
Okay.
So yeah. I mean, having a few gorillas like a faculty of law behind you would certainly help in any case, but the principles are still the same. And here, just the perfection of these things, in a sense, can even be clearer than that. Yeah, in that there was an argument to say, get the judge to demonstrate, because the system is assuming you're guilty before innocent when you go to a court. It would be better to circumvent the merry-go-round of recusing every judge that comes, or magistrate, and simply move to an affidavit and have the whole thing discharged. Yeah?
I'd love that to have been first-hand personal knowledge.
Well, again, the power of this knowledge is not that it's a brand new idea or some kind of inside tip from the system. It's actually based upon a review, a knowledge, a wisdom of law from the beginning of law. It's not magic. It's not supposition. It's not kind of the secret handshake or the magic document that solves all things. It's why we're at session 3 of the workshop. Don't know how you're going. I'm still on it together. We've got one more session to go, but it's about all that foundation and knowing what person is, knowing what reason is, knowing what action is, knowing those steps of how procedure works. The fact that due process of law has stood from the beginning because it is an argument, a process of argument, a logical series of steps that can't be circumvented. And if they are, one can point to the fatal flaw of the argument. So we're using that knowledge and we're using it in an honourable way to seek redress. So I think there's a lot of strength in this because of that. Okay, and it brings us to, and I'm going to say, give me a chance to wrap up the slides and we'll do Q&A and then we'll, so is that all right? Because I know there was a question you asked me earlier and we didn't get to. So I want to come back to that. But I want to do this one here.
Yeah, I was going to ask a question about that, but I can...
Okay, all right. There's probably no more graphic example of a system gone mad, and thankfully we are not at the stage yet, but we probably will be soon, as how awful it has become in places like sections of major cities of the United States. In the pressing people into leg irons and jumpsuits and processed like cattle in an abattoir through the courts. But even in that circumstance, there is a way to take this knowledge and to seek redress and seek respect and honour, because there are graphic presumptions being brought to court in leg irons and jumpsuit. And you never saw O.J. Simpson in leg irons and jumpsuit going to his trial during the process of the trial, maybe it's sentencing of the trial, but the process of trial, one is presumed in law supposedly to be innocent until proven guilty. So we're going to go through this because I think if we think of fear, what we fear probably in all the system is that idea of the midnight raid, you arrest, you're in chains, you're in a jumpsuit and you're brought before some magistrate at 3 in the morning. So what would you do there? What would you do there with all this great knowledge? Well, here we go. Even in leg irons. Would you be hearing the matter today in good faith and without prejudice, Your Honour?
Straight away.
Yes. Yes. Do I have your oath on that, Your Honour? Yes. Thank you. I therefore request these chains to be taken off my body and that I be afforded some clean clothes and some time to read the charges being brought against me and some paper and a pen to prepare my affidavit, as both these chains and suit imply I am guilty and contradict your oath of good faith and without prejudice. They do, don't they? No. No, we want to crucify you. I mean, it is hard when you're dealing with a system so far off the rail. But here, forced appearance in court, it cannot get more graphic than this. And even here, knowledge and respect and honour can be brought into favour. Yeah? It's not the abandonment of hope.
If you refuse it, then you just go back to trying to...
Then you go back to the apprehended bias order. Even if you are arrested, imprisoned and placed in chains and a jumpsuit, you have the right to fairness, presumption of innocence, and not to stand in the court as a guilty prisoner. Okay? So we'll move on, but I just want to show you that. Okay. I won't go through the court's sides. We have slides. Can we just flick through them quickly? You'll see this in the slides. Yeah, these are just slides about how the court's an exchange and debts and credits and how it all balances up. I put those in there just so you can get a bird's eye view of different courts, different jurisdictions. There's some for Australia, some for America, where you see things pitch in the whole idea of the creditor-debtor. We won't go through that. I did it in a previous workshop. They're pretty straightforward. So that's session 3. We're going to answer some questions before we have a break and then get ready for the last session. If 55,000 people actually accepted that and made that a mission, then this world will be paradise. It may not be the best for everyone in Africa or Asia or parts of the world that are still in terrible imbalance, but we will head towards a better objective, a better goal. And I'm mentioning, say, 22,000 Jesuits currently in the order, actually following the Pope Francis's message of motu proprio, that there is a rule of law and there needs to be a rule of law and no one's above the rule of law. And then those that are members of the Sovereign Knights of Malta that kind of cut across roles of prime ministers and ex-prime ministers and heads of departments and generals and others that belong to that. There is that movement. I mean, he has issued an edict. He has said, and people have resigned from the Secretary of State of the Vatican is the most powerful head of state in the world. The most powerful head of state in the world resigned because of motu proprio and other things, but right.
Why did he resign?
September the 1st, on the date that motu proprio came in.
Why did he resign though? Because what?
Have you heard of motu proprio?
I just read it a minute ago.
Okay, right. And that is an edict that states that no one is above the law in the Vatican and no public official is above the law in the Vatican. And given that the Vatican and the Catholic Church underpins all Western Roman law, that means every officer, whether it be a judge, yeah, a judge, a general, a magistrate. Yeah.
Section 5 extended to all states.
Say again?
Section 5 extended to all states.
Correct, correct.
After everything you put in place, were you shocked when you seen the Pope quit?
With Benedict?
Yeah. Or did you...
Ideas. You know, we talk about how you do something and you do it for the right reason, that things have an influence. You know, the tide comes in and out, so to stand on the shoreline saying, I did that, look.
Yeah.
I did that, you know, there's a balance there. But I think what you have the ability to do and what you have the ability to change is profound. How do you convince someone that to be a man or a woman is the most immense power in the universe? How do you convince that to people when the whole system is based on treating you as an ant, a nothing, a thing? It takes layer upon layer and task upon task, and it's hard work to get there. But if just a handful of people grasp the immensity and the power of being a man and woman, particularly if that man and woman knows the law and recognises what the law is and can stand as the law. You know, we talk about the future. The future is, and it is changing. It is changing. So, you know, we may be few, but in the dream of life, it's not numbers, it's the power of the idea.
Do these people know that they themselves are man, woman or thing?
Yeah, it's happening very, very quickly. The broad people in the middle,
I mean, the ones like
yeah, at the top, yeah. It appears that the world is changing from a few at the top and a few at the bottom. That's okay. That's all right. Don't judge people whether they do or they don't. I can think of all the reasons. I couldn't possibly manage a young family. I couldn't imagine how difficult that is to deal with that. I have a hard time picking up dog poo, you know. So, you know, remembering all the chores. You know, what have I done? What have I forgotten today? So, yeah, it's okay. Well, these are all things we're going to do now, and just to wrap up. And I'm mindful of time. About living in harmony and happiness. Yeah, not airy fairy idle things, but practical. Thank you, Anastasia. Here we go. A diagram with fewer words. Everyone has different attitudes about life. Everyone has different beliefs. Everyone is brought up in different cultures. Some people may lose a sense of spiritual identity. Some people may be born Muslim, Christian, Buddhist, Hindu, Jain, many different types of religions. Some may find subscription in new faiths and new ideas. I'm not here to judge any of that. And language is a great barrier sometimes, but also a great unity in words. So please forgive me if these words feel in any way to not reverberate with your own beliefs. But if there is a belief that underpins the oldest of cultures, Indigenous cultures, whether it be the Indigenous cultures of this land, where we know of a cultural centre of Dreamtime, whether it be the Indigenous cultures of New Zealand, or the traditional cultures of North, Central and South America, you can say with confidence that these cultures all believed in one way or another that life is a dream, or aspects of a dream, not a machine. And so, if we're going to find a sense of being and sense of why do we know this when the rest of our family don't know, or why are we here today and all the people that could have come didn't come, or why when I talk to other people they just simply won't listen, they put their hand and go la la la, you know, they don't want to know. Why is it that people don't want to know? Well, let's begin with what is it and where are we? So we can make sense in our own selves. We can find some peace maybe in our own selves. And here this diagram takes 4 different directions in and gives us a balance. So assume you're in this part here. Yeah, you're actually here, all of this, but just assume at the moment you're in this circle here. And one might say is, if one was to describe what the most important thing for the Supreme Creator, the Divine Creator, the energy, the Spirit, whatever you want to call the Absolute, the One and the All, from its perspective, from the outside looking in, one could complete the phrase with awareness loves life. A-L-L. The meaning of all. The meaning of all is, in one way, described as awareness loves life. Now, from our perspective, when we're in this form, we're looking from the inside out, and of course our perspective is life loves awareness. Another way is to say that there is a cosmological connection between the divine, the natural and life, and that this may be part of the journey of how do these things work? You know, what is after this life? Why am I here? Why do I know? Why do people not know? The spiritual, the physical, the dream and the dreamer. Last week I covered a topic in the blog about theology, which is very much about trying to make sense of this as to the existence of proving the divine. I don't actually have a diagram for this, but one could say, if I look at this, can we go to the next one? Maybe I can do it here. It doesn't matter, I'll keep on this one. You know, if one wants to prove the existence of the divine, there are 5 different ways. And one of them is that in a physical world, rules and matter depends, and existence depends on rules and matter. If rules don't exist, matter can't exist. If matter doesn't exist, rules can't exist. And the only way to resolve this is the chicken and the egg. You know what came first, the chicken and the egg? It's the argument. It's the cosmological argument. Well, the only argument is that the egg can exist in theory. And so the only thing where rules can exist in theory and still be real is the dream. Is the dreamer being the awareness, perceives the dream has rules and matter. And so where we find ourselves in mind, in our lower mind, a higher mind, a divine mind, where we see ourselves between the lower brain, where we see ourselves in terms of our journey as a representative of the species to all form, whether it be the journey of a unique being to the divine creator. You are immortal. The only example of dimension being created is a dream. The only example that science has ever discovered of dimension being created is thought. And yet, dimension is all around us. We are living in dimension. We are coming together in this form together in dimension. Now, the system has known this. This system has known that we are immortal and that life is a dream. It lost that knowledge. It forgot that knowledge. But the elite reacquired that knowledge when the great library of Cordoba was conquered and began to be translated. It was the great treasures of the Umayyad. The Umayyad were the caliphs of the first great Islamic empire that straddled the whole top of North Africa and the whole part of Asia there. And eventually they came up into Spain. And when this library was translated, it became the basis of what we now call the Kabbalah. Yeah? And the Kabbalah doesn't originate in Persian history. It is the old knowledge that goes back to the Hyksos pharaohs of Egypt. The tree of life. And the tree of life was that our minds are not simply one aspect. Our minds are levels, structures. And that just as you can conceive in the room today, as you're nodding off because I've been talking all the time, and you think of, oh, I could just be at a beach today or I could be somewhere. That thought has dimension. That thought has a reality to you, the dreamer, and you, the dreamer. If you can conceive, and if dimension exists, then all dimension exists. The divine exists. You are the proof. Your ability to dream is the proof that life is a dream. You don't need me to tell you that. You can prove it, and you do prove it every single day. And if that's true, then you're mortal. The essence of you is immortal. The problem, and what Kabbalah was, and I'm not here to promote that theory, we have a story of the tree of life, and I will say to you now that the mysteries translated out of Cordoba are a mistranslation and a misconstruing of the knowledge, and they are not the correct knowledge of the Kabbalah. Not at all. It's not even the complete phrase. The complete phrase in the Hyksos was Ha-ka-ba-la-a. Ha-ka-la-ba-la-a. Yeah, Ha-ka-ba-la-a. That's right. They were the key parts of the Hyksos tree of life. The problem we have in making context of why we're here and why we know this now is that there is this enormous resource behind us, not immortal, by denying that. But they also denied the fact that we live more than one life. Do you know that the Catholic Church does not consider the doctrine of reincarnation a heresy? Doesn't. Because it is the mystery of resurrection. Resurrection, reincarnation. They put it right out in front of you, right out in plain sight, and then tell you you live one life. And then what they teach the elite is that you've lived more than one life. And that if you learn discipline in this life and understand the mysteries of the tree of life, then you can remember who and what you are and why you're here and tap into that enormous resource that is you. Because the most powerful thing you can ever be is a divine creator instance in a form in this world, and know who and what you are and keep it all together. You have the ability to change the world. One has the ability to change the world if you know who and what you are. The key to true immortality is remembering. There have been some films and some books on it, but by not remembering, well, I've told you that uncannily the universe, to our higher mind, you saw before, presents similar or at least connected lessons in the hope that one point we'll listen. How many lives do you think you've led to come to this point, to finally recognise the lessons that you may or may not have learnt in previous times, in previous experiences? What brings you here to hear the knowledge of who and what you are? Not who I am, not what this is, what you are, who you are. I use this example. I use pirate, we talk about pirates, but the 1600s, someone could be a pirate who never gave a second thought to life. They come back as a wealthy widow, so they get the wealth they want and die alone. Or a soldier who never got to see his son. All of these lives have regrets. All these lives unresolved. Have you heard of people who had an abusive parent to end up at some point go from the victim to become the abuser? Does it happen? So patterns repeat, don't they? History repeats, yeah? So it's no longer just a matter of, well, it'd be nice to know that I was King Louis, or some people say, oh, I was Jesus Christ, or whatever they want to be called. There may actually be a real lesson in learning who and what, and actually seeing what matters in this life. You know why the Celts used to run down naked into battle? Because they were immortal. They knew they were immortal. And what mattered in life was to live well, to die well. It wasn't a celebration of death. They didn't want to die, but they knew that transition and breaking the cycle was remaining in the moment. What matters? Character. The tree of life. And three key things we can say here. Ego defines us, that's fine, but also constrains the greater of who and what we are. If I said to each and every one of you, you are unique collective awareness, you're the divine creator. Of course you are. If life is a dream, then you are an aspect of the divine. Don't believe me? Read the New Testament. I'm in you, you're in me. Who said that? A guy called Jesus. What does that mean? Well, it means if he's in you and you're in him, then we're all part of something, but it also means you are an instance of that. You are part of that. So ego doesn't sometimes always do the right thing. Sometimes it doesn't do favours. It says, oh, if I could just be this, if I could just be that. Yeah? Well, you already are that. So, three key concepts that the ancient Egyptians and the ancient priests observed in defining balance and happiness in life. It includes pharaohs and priests and people of great power. And the first was austerity, living a simplified life. Now sometimes we find that this is not by choice, but by design. There's only been a few whacks along the way. But you own nothing. You own nothing. Only what you use and what you need to live and your duties. Doesn't mean you have to live poorly, but austerity in the value of the things that are around you. You know, I had to buy a mower. I'd like to have bought a petrol mower, but partner wouldn't allow me to buy a petrol mower. She doesn't trust me with petrol mowers, so I got a push mower. And it reminded me as a child that my grandfather would get me out with his old push mower, albeit his was made out of metal. This one's made out of metal and plastic. But, you know, as I'm pushing this mower and as it hits, you know, any thick grass and stops, you know, and you get the, you know, it brought me back to as a kid, you know, the simple thing of, you know, trying to beat this bloody thing and mow the grass. But it was a simple thing, mowing the lawn. You know, an electric mower or petrol mower, it's over in 3 seconds. But with a manual mower, you really got to work hard at it and still won't cut the grass. But anyway. So, you know, you're not of the world, but you're merely in it. You're not to blame for this world. You don't have to take the problems of the world on your shoulder. I don't have to wear the problems of the world on my shoulder. Yeah? Nor do you. I'm not a messiah. I'm a man. No? The world doesn't need any more messiahs. But you're not of the world, you're merely in it. You cease desperate attachment to things, nor the suffering of addictions and personal jealousy. Think of all the things that upset us and how many of them are addictions. Yeah? Addictions to things or time or, you know, people offending us or that person jumped in front of the queue. Self-discipline, living a respectful life. You are custodians of your body, mind and actions, and every moment counts. Embracing learning, interacting with others, meditation and travel. And last of all, humility, living a wise life. If all of this comes down to not how many people know, but that you know. Because you are the greatest thing there is. And that if you know and can live, that will ripple and have an effect for every single man and woman that you encounter from this point on. And that's the meaning, not quantity but quality, in a world that is bizarrely obsessed in quantity. Everything is quantity now. How many hits on a website, how many people viewed this video, how much money someone has. Then all of this is worthwhile. So happiness and peace at the end of the day in what we've done today, and we've covered a lot of ground in one workshop. I hope you felt that, you know, it was well worth it today. But happiness and peace is at the end of the day knowing that it's not a race, it's not a competition. Yes, it's a journey, but you matter. And what you think matters. And finding peace and sense of how things work out in your life matters. And don't feel upset if you fall off the horse one day or you fall off the horse tomorrow. It doesn't matter what people think about you. What matters is how you think about yourself. Do you see that story? She was 70 or 60?
67.
She was how old? 67.
67. For the third time.
For the third time.
Yeah.
She tried this journey her whole life. And she had faced stinging and couldn't breathe and all kinds of obstruction. And she got out of that water and never, ever give up. Thank you very much for your patience today. For your questions, good on you. Thank you.